Welcome to this channel. This video talks about type 1 and type 2 error. In testing a hypothesis, two types of errors are expected, type 1 and type 2 errors. When null hypothesis H0 is tested against alternative hypothesis H1, there are four possibilities. H0 is accepted when it is true, that is correct decision. H0 is rejected when it is true, that is incorrect decision, that is type 1 error. H0 is accepted when it is false, that is incorrect decision, type 2 error. And H0 is rejected when it is false, that is again correct decision. Look at this figure. In reality, null hypothesis H0 is true. Then accepting a true null hypothesis is a correct decision. But rejecting a true null hypothesis is type 1 error. Again, in reality, H0 is false. Accepting a false null hypothesis is type 2 error. Rejecting a false null hypothesis is correct decision. This can be made more clear with the differences between type 1 and type 2 error. Type 1 error is rejecting a true null hypothesis, whereas type 2 error is accepting a false null hypothesis. Type 1 error is represented by Greek letter A, alpha, that is probability of type 1 error, that is false positive, is detecting an effect that is not present. Type 2 error is represented by Greek letter beta. Beta, that is probability of type 2 error, is false negative because fails to detect an effect that is actually present. So here false negative fails to detect an effect that is actually present. False positive is detecting an effect that is not present. Then probability of type 1 error or alpha is also called the level of significance for the test. That is the probability of rejecting a null hypothesis when it is actually true. Type 2 error, beta, is probability of accepting a null hypothesis when it is actually not true. 1 minus beta is called the power of the test. Power of the test is the probability of rejecting a null hypothesis when it is actually not true. This can be explained with an example. Type 1 and type 2 error. I will discuss this with an example. Efficacy of two drugs are studied. Drug A and drug B. Which one is more effective or which one is more good in the treatment? Null hypothesis is stated as efficacy of drug A is same as drug B. That is, there is no difference between drug A and B. H1 or alternative hypothesis is drug A is more effective than drug B. After analyzing the results, it is found that at 5% level, there is a significant difference between the efficacy of drug A and B. So, H0 is rejected. Conclusion is drug A is effective than drug B. But in reality, drug A is not effective than B. The observed difference was due to some extraneous variables. Hence, a null hypothesis is rejected when it is true. Here comes the type 1 error. The probability of committing a type 1 error at a specified level of significance. The usual level of significance chosen is 5% level. So, at 5% level of significance, the null hypothesis is rejected. A true null hypothesis is rejected. So, type 1 error occurred. Again, the same example of drug A and B, let us discuss type 2 error. Here, in reality, drug A is better than drug B. Null hypothesis is no difference in the efficacy of drug A with that of drug B. That is, drug A is equal to drug B. Here, researcher failed to reject the null hypothesis when actually there is a difference. Actually, in reality, there is a difference, but the researcher failed to reject, or the researcher accept the null hypothesis. That is, incorrectly concluded that no difference between drug A and B, when in reality, drug A is effective than drug B. This is type 2 error. That is, accepting a false null hypothesis. That is false negative, because type 2 error fails to detect an effect that is actually present. Again, the same thing is explained, depicted in this figure. That is, in reality, drug A is equal to drug B. H0 is true. The decision taken is accept null hypothesis. That is a correct decision. That is 1 minus alpha. That is true negative. H0 true, but the null hypothesis is rejected. That is type 1 error alpha. That is incorrectly rejecting a true null hypothesis at a level of significance of 5%. In the second case, drug A is not equal to drug B. That is, H0 is false. Accepting a false null hypothesis, that is type 2 error, beta. Then rejecting a false null hypothesis, that is the correct decision, 1 minus beta. That is true positive. So the 1 minus beta is the power. Power is the ability of the test to correctly reject a false null hypothesis. Hope it is clear with these examples. Type 1 and type 2 error cannot be avoided entirely. Increasing the sample size can lessen these type of statistical errors. Thank you.